Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sandy Quinn, and I'm president of the Richard Nixon Foundation. It's great to see a huge crowd like this. You're always welcome here. We have great speakers, and we appreciate your support. I want you to meet some of our VIPs. I'm going to start with a member of our board of directors, John Hamilton. John, please. Also, say hello to the great mayor of Yorba Linda, our good friend, Craig Young. Now, you're here not to hear me, although I could go on, and maybe I will, but you're here to hear our speaker, who is indeed the funniest man on television, I think. I think he should have replaced David Letterman. I think he should have... But he's going to stay on Red Eye and the Five. He's outrageous and he's outspoken. He denies either charge, or he refuses to deny either one of those charges. But he's a great personality, a very funny man, and please welcome him, accompanied by his wife Alina, the Gutfelds.
Do you know any Sex Pistols? Couple of house cleaning things before I get started. Somebody's car's getting towed. I just like to say that and see who's really nervous for the next hour. He said my book would be an ideal gift for Father's Day and Mother's Day. It's kind of heterosexist. He left out transgender day, which is kind of offensive. We live in a new age. He mentioned that we were in the same fraternity. I'm not sure if that's true. I think he just wanted to try out the secret handshake. It was invasive. I now know I don't have prostate cancer. It's a strange man. Sandy. Anyway, generally I do a speech and then there's questions and answers. I answer, but they're always the same. People ask me the same questions over and over again. So I figured I would just answer those questions now so we don't have to answer them later. They always ask me how tall I am, which is 5'9", in heels. Do I get my sweaters at the Baby Gap? It's actually J. Crew, or it's J. Crew for kids. People ask me why I wear my glasses down this far. It's because if you have it right in the eye line, you can't tell that I'm leering at Kimberly or Andrea or Eric. What can I say? He works out. A lot of people ask me why I wear my wedding finger on my wedding ring on my middle finger, and I'm not flipping you off. I will not wear my wedding ring on the correct finger until my marriage is recognized as legal by the United States. Some people truly do find their soulmate in a German Shepherd. Actually, the truth is, when I got married, I weighed about 40 pounds more, and I was fat. So my ring would fit perfectly on the wedding finger, but as I lost weight, it kept falling off, so I had to move it. But you want to know how I got fat? I mean, how I got skinny? Well, you know how I got fat. I got skinny not because of the Atkins diet. I got skinny because of bullying. People always say bullying is bad, but not if you're fat. When you're doing a TV show like Red Eye and 90% of the mail is you're a fat bastard, you lose weight. That's where bullying is important. That leads me to my next question. Actually, my wife got me to lose weight. Everybody asks how my wife puts up with me. I don't know. It's not easy. I drug her. But I'm wearing a suit. If it wasn't for her, I would be here dressed in a pair of Crocs and a shorty robe. So, where is Elena? Stand up and wave. Stand up, say hello. That wasn't really my wife. Just go wait in the car now, and you'll get paid later. Anyway, 5 questions. A lot of 5 questions. Does Bob really believe in the things that he's saying? Yes, but no one else does. Except for Stalin, and he's dead. But a lot of people complain about Bob. Bob is the most necessary part of the 5. I use the Bond villain theory. Imagine if you were watching the James Bond movies and there was no villain. You'd have this British guy walking around with a martini for 2 hours. And he would not be going home with beautiful women because he'd be doing nothing. He'd be incredibly boring with a stupid accent. All of a sudden, you put Dr. No in there, he's great. You have Scaramanga with the 3 nipples from Man with a Golden Gun. You know, you got the guy who, remember the guy throwing the hat? I don't know who that is. Wofat? Odd Job. Yeah, Jaws with the teeth. That's Bob Beckel. He is the Bond villain. You gotta love Bob, especially if you're a female and he's paying you by the hour. He doesn't hide his predilections. Why should I? Why don't I like Jasper? Yeah, he's supposed to be America's dog. That title belongs to Joe Biden. I'm joking. I am joking. But what you don't realize from television is the dog smells and it's constantly aroused. It's like Anthony Weiner. Is Dana Perino really that nice? No. That's like polite heckling. Yes, she is nice. No, she's not. I was at the airport with her, and she actually told Stephen Hawking to, quote, hurry up. I saw her tell a baby to grow up. It's an awful person. Do you guys really get along, or is it an act? We actually do get along, and yes, it is an act. We hate each other. If I wasn't being paid in box turtles, I wouldn't be there. It is currency in some countries. What goes on between the breaks during the commercials? Well, other panelists, they usually use their smartphones and check investments and make trades. I do charity work for underprivileged teens. That's what I do. My new book, by the way, is going to be coming out next year. It's called The Nice Man in the White Paneled Van. It's about a friendly stranger named Greg who works as a volunteer tutor in a used Econoline outside the local high school. This is part of my effort to work to undo the negative stereotypes forced upon strangers. It's not strangers you need to worry about, it's people you know. They do more crime than strangers. Red Eye. Does anybody here watch Red Eye? A lot of people, they found out about me through the 5 because it's at 5 o'clock. It's, early bird special. Red Eye's the midnight snack. But I feel like I'm a butcher because when you're running a butcher shop, everybody's buying the prosciutto, and you got the liverwurst over here. Well, the 5's the prosciutto, and everybody's buying it. It's expensive. People like it, and nobody's buying the liverwurst. So Red Eye is the liverwurst. It's rich. It goes great with onions. It gives you bad breath. People ask me, do we ever do Red Eye drunk? The better question is, do we ever do it sober? You have to understand, you should never ever do a show drunk. You think you're having fun, and it's never any good. When you watch and you see that you've been saying the same thing over and over again, and your eyes are glassy and you're sweaty, booze is not a good thing for performances in many different aspects. How How does someone get on Red Eye? A lot of people ask me, like, how do you find your guests? And it's real people who aren't boring. And that's what I find the success to Red Eye and also the Five, is that these people are exactly the same as they would be if you met them outside. The panelists on the Five, Bob is the same, Dane is the same, Eric's the same. It's the same with Red Eye. If you look at the guests that we have on Red Eye are so unusual. We will have Gavin McInnes, who's he's covered in tattoos and bacteria. Then you got Mike Baker, CIA guy. So you got a guy who founded Vice magazine, who's a degenerate. You got a CIA agent. Then you got Ambassador Bolton, who is an amazing guy. His mustache can bench press 300 pounds. His mustache actually has its own cot. When he comes in, he'll get makeup, and the mustache just crawls over to a cot, climbs up, and just sleeps. Very demanding. How did Red Eye start? A lot of people ask me that. It's a weird thing. I don't think any network has really ever done anything like this, where they see somebody, they saw my writing on the Huffington Post, and they thought that guy was bizarre enough to give him a show. And so they sent somebody out to London to meet with me. And I flew in, I had an outline, they didn't even read the outline, they just put me in front of the cameras and said, go. And that is what Fox News does. They throw you into the deep end, and if you can swim, that's great, and if you can't swim, that's even better. I would call it a train wreck, but that's an insult to train wrecks. But it got better. Every day we kept doing the show no matter how bad it was, and it was really bad, but we did it every day, and it gets slightly better. Just every day. If you do something every day for 10 years, you'll be an expert in anything, and you'll be rich. I'm still waiting for that. Generally, if there are a lot of young people here, ma'am, what are you doing over there? Oh, that's my wife. She's already trying to ruin my speech. People ask me how I got to where I was, career-wise. Not how I actually got here. It was a car service. Let me get that out of the way, because I think that's very important. If you're young and you're looking to get a job in journalism or in broadcasting or entertainment, you got to take any job. Do not follow your dream. Get a job, and then the dream will inevitably find you. Smattering. Be willing to move anywhere. I left California for Allentown, Pennsylvania, where I became the associate editor of Prevention Magazine, which is a magazine for women in their 60s and 70s. I wrote every day about osteoporosis, and I know more than anybody about special times of the month when you're not feeling well. But the point is, I worked every single day. I interviewed the hardest people to interview, which are doctors, because they hate media. But that taught me how to ask questions, and it also made me unafraid to be stupid. And that's the most important thing, I think, in journalism, is to not have an ego and not to be afraid to be proven wrong. The more you're open you are to being wrong, the more likely you end up being right, because you're willing to listen to people. And I learned to embrace my stupidity, as you notice almost every night on Red Eye. Don't go see the world. It'll be there when you get a job. People who go backpacking through Europe, that's stupid. Somebody ends up having to bail you out. Don't try to make the world a better place. The only way you can do that is by getting a job and being nice to the people around you. Don't go build a hut somewhere. Buy the toilet paper. The most important point that I learned in my career is that fun must always be a reward. This is a problem that I find these days, is that a lot of people forget that you should achieve something and then get drunk. You don't go to spring break if you don't have a job. I don't understand this. If you're gonna smoke pot, wait till you're 40, because I know too many people that started smoking pot when they were 15 who were really smart, had so much potential, who don't have it anymore because they put the fun before the work. You got to earn your fun, and I think that it makes fun more worthwhile. Career is defined solely by saying yes to work. You say yes to everything. I started at the American Spectator making $300 every 2 weeks, went to Prevention, went to Men's Health, where I was fired. Went to Stuff Magazine where I was fired. Went to Maxim where I was fired. The moral of that story is work with the belief that you should be fired. Because, why not? Got me to Fox. Work to me is defined by a hole that you need to fill every day. No matter what you do on Monday to fill it, it's empty on Tuesday. And that's awesome. And people have to be reminded how important that is to fill that hole every day. Now I'm here at the Richard Nixon Library. It's pretty awesome. I think he was a pretty awesome president. Except for the EPA thing. But I like him because he wasn't cool. He's just not a cool guy. That's how he lost the first election with JFK. He just wasn't good looking enough, which is why I think I have a lot in common with him. In fact, I have some facts here of Nixon, why President Nixon and I have a lot in common. In 1942, he joined the Navy and fought in World War II. I shop at Old Navy. This is related because when you think about it, you can't have one without the other. If these guys weren't fighting a war, there would be no Old Navy. In the 1970s, President Nixon went to China to normalize relations with that country. I once got food poisoning from Kung Pao chicken. He welcomed home the Apollo 11 astronauts after landing on the moon in 1969. I saw Spaceballs. Which is obviously more real than the moon landing. Am I right? It was all done on a soundstage. We can talk about it here. President Nixon loved a dog named Checkers. I hate a dog named Jasper. I don't hate him. I just love to see him if he was in a casserole. Oh, yeah, we can eat lamb and chicken, but not dogs. Who's the hypocrite? President Nixon resigned over plumbers. I was fired over midgets. It's a true story. I was asked to speak at a seminar on how to create buzz. This was for the publishing companies in New York. And buzz, i.e. getting PR for your product, and I thought it was really stupid, so I said no. And instead, I hired 3 little people with clipboards and their phones, and they were dressed. One was dressed as a British guy in a top hat, another guy was a preppy, and another guy was a gangster. And I had them go into this seminar, which was a couple hundred, maybe about this size, and they had all these editors-in-chiefs of these magazines. And as the seminar started, the conference started, their phones would ring, but they were on vibrate, and they were on clipboards, so they would buzz. So I was creating buzz in a seminar on buzz. The important thing about a prank is that there has to be an inherent lesson involved, and the lesson here was there's no better way to expose phonies than with their own tools. And the tool here was political correctness. If anybody had done this here, if anybody had heckled me, there would probably be a security person that would come and take you away. But they couldn't do that because they were little. And so when the moderator said, "Sir, could you please turn off your phone?" And he says, "You're saying that because I'm short." And after about 20 minutes, they finally got the guys out of there. But the point was, everybody was scared to say what they wanted to say because they were too worried about being offensive. In this era of PC wacko tolerance, you can't even tell somebody to shut up without being seen as a bigot. Speaking of the scandal, obviously President Nixon is known for Watergate, and they assume that the break-in and the resignation are the important points. Not to me. To me, the big problem with Watergate is the use of the word gate. Monica Gate, Contra Gate, Bridge Gate. It is so predictable. You add gate to anything and you get a story. Unless it's President Obama. There is no IRS gate. There is no Benghazi gate. There is no Fast and Furious gate. With Obama, in regards to the media, there can never be a gate. It just doesn't happen. A gate is silly. That to me is a scandal, which I call Gate. And I'm thinking that perhaps the CEO of Microsoft is behind it, which makes it Gate. And it's to cover up his secret machine, which helps him walk faster, which is Gate. And I think I should stop that. I could keep going. Anyway, the book, I'll talk about the book briefly because you guys already bought it, right? Why do I have to talk about it? Came about from one question. Why do we do dumb things? Or more important, why do I do dumb things? My life is a catalog of idiocy, a parade of perversion. In the 70s, I got into disco. In the 80s, I got into punk. And in the 90s, I wore a bandana, which is a mistake I'm still paying for. But this behavior arose from one desire, and that is to be liked. That's all it is. And when you want to be liked, you become prey to idiots who will feed you the desire for acceptance, or feed that desire for acceptance. So when did I find out that being cool is a fraud? It happened to me in a high school debate. The debate was on mutually assured destruction, or MAD. I think that's it. Yeah, MAD. Pretty good, huh, Greg? I was anti-nuke. I had worked for the nuclear freeze. I had collected signatures for the freeze to get extra credit in religion class. That's how it worked in the 80s, that I could get extra credit working for a left-wing cause at a Catholic school. So at Sarah High School, where I was the debate. I think I was a sophomore, and I was for no nukes. So, and it was a really easy argument to make. Nukes kill people, so they're bad. It works for everything, except drugs. So I was a fairly popular kid, and the guy that was up against me was a guy named Jeff Philibert, and he was arguing pro-nuclear weapons. But I knew that in the debate, I didn't have to try because I was fairly likable, I could make jokes, and Jeff had acne. I mean, he had a lot. He was Clearasil's Mount Everest. They looked at him and they go, that's it. Or that's the moon for us. We're going to land there. But I went in there, and so that I had all the familiar faces of my class, and I was cool, and he destroyed me, just absolutely destroyed me. And I don't even know if it's ever happened where there's been a debate where the person that you're debating goes, I think you changed my mind. Well, what do I do now? It's like abandoned ship. I'm out of here. So what did I do? I did something actually pretty pathetic. I excused myself, and I went to the bathroom. And then, this is the real lesson here is this is what happened before cell phones. In order to get yourself out of anything, you had to go through these incredible machinations. And in this case, I think I called my sister, whose son is here. I think it was her, and my father had cancer at the time, and so I called and I said, the administration knew he was sick, and I said, can you call the school operator and say there's been an emergency? That is pretty bad. So I get back into the room, and then the note comes in, and they said you have to go. There's been an emergency at home, and so that's how I got out of the debate, which is pretty disgusting. But the fact is, that was 31 years ago, but I remember it like it was 1985. No, but I remember it now for the reason that I realized it was baloney. I was an imposter. That cool is a costume designed to cloak incompetence. And while others might find it temporarily interesting, in your heart, you know you're a fraud. So that was my first kind of move away from thinking about being a lefty prog, which is, to me, what really being cool is all about. So what does the desire to be liked do? It makes us vulnerable to scam artists, what I like to call the hipster elite, otherwise known as progressive scum. They're spawned from this weird machine mindset of academia and media, which is all pushed together in the belief that everything that came before, like success and tradition, sucks. The things that actually work are bad. So The cool wages war on competence. Cool is a Trojan horse that hides the radical subversion that's meant to destroy us. Cool is the path to pernicious subversion because it's value-free. Because it exists independent of good and evil, it can extol evil by calling it cool. Inevitably, it undermines common sense, parental love, and basic hygiene. If life were a house, cool is the creeping black mold, and it's the left, through the media and pop culture, that root for this mold. Because cool is about a detached mockery of work and effort, it represents popularity without achievement. Doing nothing is now perceived as cool. It's like pretending to win the lottery without ever playing. It's self-esteem for sociopaths. It's a temporary tattoo for tools. So who is this book for? It's called Not Cool. You are currently at the Nixon Library listening to a guy from Fox News. This book is for you and me. We are not cool, but we are better than cool. We are good. Where am I? What does this subservience to cool create? I've talked about, just in a personal level what it is, but in a bigger level. It allows a president to be elected whose achievements are rivaled by a Greenpeace activist on a street corner with a clipboard. We've got a community organizer matching wits with the KGB. It's like bringing a brochure on dolphins to a gunfight. It creates a vacant student body, more interested in the body than the student. On campus, identity beats industry. It's not what you do anymore, but who you do. It's better to spread your legs than wealth. You went too far there. Oh, wait till the next one. Sexual expression is now seen as a job skill, as long as the job is prefixed with hand. My motto, I stay out of your bedroom and you shut up about yours. I don't care. I firmly believe they have these things called Sex Week, which are on campuses, which are paid for in part by the schools, where they educate college students about sex, which is like trying to educate a pig about rolling around in slop. I firmly believe the more you talk about something like sex, the worse you actually are at it. Learn a trade that doesn't require lube. Or maybe that's your only skill. At this point, maybe it's all they can do. Where else does cool ruin lives? Entertainment. Cool elevates degradation to an art form. It dictates that we romance villainy. The end result, evil becomes sexy. We now know the names, or we have known the names of Bonnie and Clyde, thanks to that movie from the 60s, but I doubt anybody could name the 12 victims. We have movies, documentaries about cop killers like Mahmoud Abu Najal. I just conflated 3 terrorists. The guy who killed Daniel Faulkner, I know the name of Daniel Faulkner. He was the police officer killed by the cop killer. There's no documentary on him. And if you search his name, maybe you get 100,000 hits. But Mamu or Mumia, that's his name, Mumia, you get 1 million. Because he's a radical. That's what they call people who kill people now. They call them radicals, because that's cool. There are movies about radical terrorist sex, but they recast them as a thriller. The Robert Redford movie, for example, took the Weather Underground and made it into something softer. They made it into a thriller. I fear that in 20 years, when they do something on the Boston Marathon bombing, the bomber will be played by a kitten. Look at the new movie Nonstop, which has Liam Neeson. I didn't know much about this movie, but my nephew saw it, and he was really angry, and it takes a lot to get him angry. The villain in this movie is a relative of a 9/11 victim. And I guess the reason why he was killing everybody on the plane was to make sure there was no more terrorism. Think about how Hollywood had to create that so that they couldn't say radical Islam. They had to take a relative of a 9/11 victim. This is disgusting. It's like peeing on the World Trade Center's remains. It makes me sick to my stomach. And I would see the movie, but I can't because I would probably punch somebody. The symbol of all of this is the terrorist on the cover of Rolling Stone. I won't say his name, but you know who I'm talking about. He looks like a leftover from the Jonas Brothers, which is why they put him on there. And this illustrates how cool relies on being as far away from evil as you can. You can't romance something that intimately affects you. You could put Che Guevara on your chest as long as Che didn't kill your family. Likewise, you can put a terrorist on the cover of Rolling Stone because you weren't there in Boston when the explosion occurred. And I always say this, that if that bombing had occurred in the Rolling Stone offices, they would have had the offices on the cover, the blood and the gore. But instead, it wasn't, so they had the pretty boy. And they basically put him through the prism of a pop star. They talked about him as though he were a lead singer of an up-and-coming band, and it was repulsive. You have celebrities buying art by serial killers. You know, Johnny Depp will buy a painting by John Wayne Gacy because that's a conversation piece. So people's misery is now something to talk about over drinks. Like I said, cool has hijacked elections. The last two were decided not by heroism, but hipness. John McCain, whether you agree with him politically or not, he was a prisoner of war for, I believe, at least 5 years. He was a war hero. He was an outspoken senator, is an outspoken senator. You have Mitt Romney. He's a charitable man. He's a businessman, successful. He was a governor. Both lost to a political Justin Bieber. I am convinced that if Richard Nixon ran today, he would lose to One Direction. And remember, President Nixon lost to JFK because he was more telegenic. Ask Marilyn Monroe. Well, you can't because she's dead. Cool has poisoned our view of the military thanks to campus intolerance toward American exceptionalism. Military is mocked as the last option when you are out of options. It's better to engage in performance art, shoving yams up your butt and getting a government grant, which has happened. The teacher's lounge mentality has made the United States the root of all evil, which has caused us a retreat from dominance. I don't hate President Obama. I just don't like where he came from, where the mentality, the sensibility from academia has made him incapable of dealing with somebody like Putin. Because what if in the Cold War you were on his side? How can you argue against him now? And you're not hearing anything, of course, about Venezuela because the cool side is losing. Remember, it was Chavez who was cool, and now you're watching the country fall apart. They don't even have toilet paper, which is why Sean Penn isn't there. Because he's so full of crap. Internally, cool is tearing us apart by replacing patriotism with factionalism, by obliterating it with division. Forget being American, you're a transgendered Native American little person with peanut allergies. In short, anyone who works at MSNBC. Why does cool succeed? Because it is painted as rebellious. In reality, it is edgy as a snowball, as spontaneous as a moon landing. They're the most predictable creatures since we invented sheep. They are sheep, with J shirts and bad tattoos. This is the thing that gets me. Tattoos were great, because the guys who had them were in the military, and then they joined biker gangs. They deserve the tattoos. If you work in a yard, you get a tattoo. But when you're serving me a latte, oh, wow, hey, better tip you. You might tackle me or something with your nose ring. They call themselves rebels, but they aren't. They're supposed to speak truth to power, but they don't. They don't just kiss Obama's butt. They climb in it and build a gazebo. You know, the thing about the cool is they can't survive without the non-cool. The non-cool do all the work. Loafers depend on lifters. Consider the pacifist who survives based on others who are willing to die for him. That's basically what the cool is. The cool depends on those who do all the successful stuff. And in fact, the cool are born from the success of the last 40 years. They couldn't get away with this before. Worse, the cool has one brutal flaw. Well, more than one, but this is the brutal flaw of all. What it seeks to destroy, it has nothing to replace it with. It's like a miserable child destroying sandcastles on the beach. I would say drown them, but we are in a drought. So, how do you beat this progressive death cult? Well, you shoot them. I kid, you stab them. I'm joking, you strangle them. No, you subvert the subverter. Remember, the true rebel is the rebel who rebels against the rebel. How do you do that? First, you redefine cool by reasserting our superiority openly. What does that mean? You celebrate a badass military, a brutal killing machine necessary for our preservation. You salute business over brooding. You reject envy in favor of opportunity. You embrace work, and you elevate service to an art form. You create a code to live by, where common sense and brutal honesty trumps jargon and abstract theory untested by reality, meaning you mock the teacher's lounge. You need to be right, but you need to be more than right. You need to be what I call persuasively correct. That means you can articulate being right in a charming, funny way. You need the facts, and you need to be funny. And it beats yelling at all times. They want you to yell. Don't yell. You need to embrace the weird. We can't all be the same. You need to lose the Blazers and embrace the Melvins. Weird people. You know, I learned on my book tour, I was looking at the audience and I'm going, there's a lot of weird people here. And they were awesome. That's why I'm making fun of people with tattoos and piercings, but they were in my audience. And I'm thinking that's probably a good thing. You need to find new ways to say old things. You can't just say they suck. You need to be clever. That's why on the 5, that's all I do are metaphors. Because you can't just call President Obama a horrible president. You need to call him Ferris Bueller. You need to come up with other ways. Most important, you need to reject the desire to be liked. You need to realize if you do not bend to the cool, you will not die alone being eaten by your cats. Unless you're Andy Levy. You need to have fun. You need to relish the battle. You need to laugh at and with your adversaries. You need to be the happy warrior. That was Andrew Breitbart's gifts. Anybody who knows him knew. Outrage is left-wing oxygen. I'll never forget. You know, one of the defining memories of Andrew Breitbart was a protest in Palm Springs. I don't know if you look it up on YouTube. There was this angry protest, and he showed up in like dolphin shorts and on rollerblades. And he took them all to breakfast. He did. Yeah, I think he took them to IHOP. That's how you do it. You use wit instead of rage when faced with scorn. It confuses them when you're funny. It's like speaking Latin to a tree frog. You need to reject moral masochism. You need to refuse to apologize for being sane or working hard. If someone mocks you, you come at them with a majestic so, and then you punch them. With love. Most important, you need to unite. We need to get rid of the bouncer syndrome. This is the desire to decide who can be in your club. It drives me crazy. It's like if you disagree with a conservative on something, they call you a rhino. Or maybe they're too right-wing for you. This is how you lose. You got to stop calling each other names. The left wants us to focus on each other and not them. So we need to stop chasing rabbits. We need to remember who the enemy is and eat them alive. But The most important thing you can do, if you haven't done so already, is to buy my book. You can save this country, you can save the world, you can save yourself if you buy this book. Also, I am trying to buy a boat. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Greg has agreed to answer a few questions, but before I go to you, and if you have a question, please raise your hand. I will come to you, but I do want to announce that the fire marshal has announced he's going to tow the 4 cars that are around the fountain out there. So
I was right.
Greg said in the very beginning we're going to tow cars, and that is coming true. So a black Mercedes, a Honda, a Toyota something.
Oh, that's me.
And
wouldn't it be easier to have the fountain removed?
and another. So if you would dispatch yourselves forthwith right away, get up and go out and move your car, or it will be towed. So now let's start with. Yes.
I gotta ask quick because I gotta get up, get my car.
Okay.
So I don't need that.
All right.
I love you. You're a resource for this country. I hate it when people come on and make disparaging comments about you.
Oh, like who?
It's like, for instance, if the President of the United States was grilled by an unfunny comedian, what it must look like in other parts of the world.
Yes.
So I don't like it.
Yeah.
Because to me, you're larger than life. My wife and I love you, but here's the question. Here's the question. You mentioned Fox News.
Right.
What will our country look like tonight if the second greatest man at Fox News, Roger Ailes, did not implement what he did? What kind of mess would we be in today if there was no such thing as Fox News?
Thank you.
Asking a question about my boss, eh? All right. The world would be in a shambles. We'd already be in World War VIII. Canada would be gone, Mexico would be gone, the United States, but a flicker. No, actually, it's a great point. Where would we be? Because there was nothing like it before. I always talk about that. When I was working at Men's Health, I did some spots at Fox News, and I was the only conservative in publishing. Nobody knew. I mean, maybe a couple of other people at Rodale where I worked, but I showed up at Fox News, and I'm going, wow, this is really weird. I want to work here. I really want to work because there was nothing before it. And you know why it's so important? How do you know it's so important? It's that it's so hated and reviled by everybody else. Why? Like there are people. Free speech advocates who want to get rid of Fox News because they disagree with it. I don't want to get that out. It is amazing how people that consider themselves so progressive are doing their best to destroy a network simply because it's actually saying what they refuse to say. And it is fair and balanced, but the fair and balanced often is in the context of the media. As a greater whole, it provides balance that isn't there anywhere else. And without it, you're right, it would be a mess.
A young USC graduate.
So question, is social media cool, and can you use social media to not be cool?
You know what's not cool about social media? How it's portrayed on television and in movies. It's like, everybody who plays in social media is too good looking. Like they always are like, no, they have way more acne, and they have poor diets. But I think social media is great. I don't know. I mean, I guess, okay, you know what? I can't answer this question because I don't believe in the word cool. So cool is value free. If you said, is social media good? I would say yes, it's good.
Yeah, what happened to your repulsive sidekick, Bill Schultz?
Bill is at Maxim. Remember, Bill and I met at Dennis Publishing. He was at Stuff, and then he went to Maxim. He was always a print guy, judging by his looks. So he's back doing it. He loves going. Bill is a great reporter. If you remember his MOSs, Man on the Streets, he's one of the best interviewers. And I think, that's what he missed. He likes going out and going on trips and getting in trouble.
A young lady from Lake Forest.
Hi, Greg. I love you.
I love you too. But it's over between us. So
Okay.
And I don't know how you got in here. Because I circulated your picture to the security.
I thought that ended in the 8th grade.
Have you ever thought of being on the panel on Special Report?
They asked me. I think no, they didn't ask me. They didn't ask me. You can't think about it if you haven't been asked. That's why I never went to the prom.
You want to stand? Where are you from?
I'm from Costa Mesa. Hey, we love you down here for sure.
Thank you.
My question is, what are we missing with not having Breitbart around right now? With all the stuff going on with the IRS and Benghazi, what are we missing?
I don't know. I mean, obviously you miss Andrew Breitbart. I mean, what can you say? That's a huge hole. But after his funeral, I said that the great thing about Andrew, I was speaking to the group, was that everybody who knew Andrew took a piece of him with them. And so I think you kind of had 1,000 Andrews. And it sounds corny, but everybody there thinks about what he would do in a situation. And I think he created, in a way, a movement. And so there's not one Andrew. There's a whole bunch of little ones going around, unrelated to him. He has a lot of kids.
Over here, Greg, a 17-year-old from Temecula.
My question is, how do I make it through college as a libertarian without drawing unwanted negative attention to myself?
Pretend you're a liberal. That's what I did. I actually, I was an English major. You should see the papers that I wrote. Because all the professors were into deconstruction, and I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's not really about what the book's about. It's about what the professor, what you can do with the. It's totally BS. I wrote the best ones because I just bought it because I wanted a good grade. I was a phony.
Was he going to ask the question? Huh? Oh, Dean. Oh, pardon me. There you go. Stand up real quick.
Hi, my name is Yoko. We met at the Reagan Library.
So you heard all my old jokes before?
No, because I was sleeping.
With who?
I already have a green card, so don't worry. Well, I'm still waiting for the man who is disguised. Remember?
Who? The man.
Never mind then. You're slow. Oh well, I went to high schools in Bay Area, just like you.
Yeah.
And I got into a fight with a bunch of social study teachers. And was Berkeley your first choice? Berkeley smells like a
It was,
urine.
the reason why I went to Berkeley was, I had two choices, University of Santa Clara and Berkeley. And I went to the first day at University of Santa Clara is a private school. I went there, was bored. But I like Berkeley because I like music. And every weekend...
But it smells like urine.
But some people are into that. But they have the best record stores in Berkeley, and I would go there every Saturday and buy imports and singles and stuff, and that was what got me to go to Berkeley, not the school itself. It was music.
A retired, did I interrupt you?
No, I'm good.
Okay, a retired truck driver has a question, a young man right over here.
I told you no retired truck drivers today.
We have a restaurant by us called Pinnacle Pete that will cut that tie off for you if you come up to dinner.
Really?
You're welcome to come.
I like this tie. It's my favorite. By the way, all of my ties are pre-tied by my wife. And I just put them on. They're right on, and then I take them off, put them in the tie bag.
How you doing, Greg? I'm Nick.
Hey, Nick. Nice tattoos.
Yeah, thanks.
You somehow, it seems like you've earned them, though. I don't think you work at Starbucks.
Not really, no.
It's a scary Starbucks if you work there. I will not ask to use the bathroom. I will just walk by.
Thanks. I just got to hear your take, though, on hearing that Jon Stewart's interview with Obama was his toughest. I couldn't stop laughing.
But that's the nature of, I call it the media academic complex. They're all from the same place. They're interviewing themselves. So maybe he thought it was tough, but that was a compliment to Jon Stewart, and then Jon Stewart. It's all about complimenting each other. But yeah, it's hilarious. It's funny.
Thank you. Where?
Thank you.
Hey, Greg. I'm a huge fan. I watch Red Eye and I watch The Five.
Excellent.
And, yeah.
Thank you very much.
When do you do your homework? Aren't you supposed to do your homework?
I would just, I'm looking around and I see a lot of people from the greatest generation there was in America, and...
You mean the 1970s?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's also quite alarming to me that there's not a lot of young people when it comes to, coming out to hear conservative speakers like yourself.
Yeah.
And it's hard to reach out to people like, people in my age group.
Right.
It's really hard for me to talk politics with anyone.
Yeah.
What do you recommend to get people to at least hear you out with? How do we reach out to that youth vote, per se?
It is a reality that people just don't wise up until they're older. I mean, that's the fact. It's like once you start paying taxes, getting a paycheck, and having kids, suddenly you're not a liberal. And that's the issue. That's what liberals have in common with teenagers, is that you can romanticize certain things that have no impact on you. You can talk about raising the minimum wage and doing, whatever, because it doesn't affect you, because you don't own a small business. My advice is to have them read my books. I hate this. I'm trying to think of other, there are other people. There aren't other people. There has to be more. I just don't know where they are. So until then, just read my books.
All right. A 14-year-old from Temecula.
Hey.
Hi. I watch Red Eye with my parents all the time, so I want to thank you. And
I bring families together.
Good job.
I also tear them apart.
I was just wondering, going to a school where there's a lot of liberal teachers, is there a way I can anger them a little more?
The best way to do it is always to pretend that you agree with them until you pose a fact that is counter to them, and it always has to be a fact that is backed up, not something that I heard Greg Gutfeld say this, or I heard Bill O'Reilly say this. It has to be. This new climate change report says there hasn't been any warming in the last 16 years. How can you explain this? Something like that. But it's always good to do a little homework. And you guys have Google. I didn't have that. I had to read. It's unfair.
We have time for two more, and we'll start with the gentleman directly in front of you.
Hi, Greg. My name is Bob.
Hey, Bob.
I have a question about you and Dennis Miller. Did you both go to the same school of linguistics? Because when I'm watching you on television, I can't understand anything he says, and I understand about 50% of what you say, but today I understood everything you said. So my question is there something wrong with my television?
No, not every metaphor or joke can be a winner. But the whole point of, on the Five, I will write stuff thinking that this is not for television, it's for reading. But I like, it sounds almost arrogant, but sometimes you got to compliment the viewer by giving him something that maybe is different. And if they don't get it at the first time, maybe they'll watch it again. But it's more fun to slip something in that no one has heard before. And then they go, they might watch the repeat, or they might replay it, a monologue, and they'll go, now I get it. And so, but sometimes I agree. Sometimes my stuff I get tired of it. It's like, that old saying, I'm not sick of the questions, I'm sick of my answers. That's why I don't do too many metaphors anymore, although those are the fun parts of the show.
A retired debate coach from Yorba Linda.
Hi, Greg. I knew you were a debater.
Oh, well, I'm a master.
I've heard that one a million times.
I mean, was I just going to let that go?
No.
No.
I hope this question doesn't put you on the spot, but I'm concerned about the federal takeover of education called Common Core.
Yeah.
I'd like your thoughts on that topic.
Well, to me it's very complicated, but the thing that really simplifies it is examples of the materials. Whenever you shine a flashlight on anything, that's the way to win an argument. And it's always like when you read a question and you go like, what the hell does this mean? That's when you win converts. And I'm still waiting. You know what it is? Maybe it's because I don't have kids and it's not like in my face all the time. But I talk to people and they're like, what? This is crazy. But I'm still basically a baby when it comes to, I'm learning about it slowly. But I think showing examples is the way to go. Facts, not feelings.
Let's thank Ray Gutfeld for coming to the Richard Nixon Library.
Thanks, sir.
As you know, I want him to come back here and run for office against Barbara Boxer. What do you think?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, he will be in the front lobby in 2 minutes for a book signing. Please go to the museum store, pick up your book, and he will sign it. Thank you again for coming. God bless America, and God bless all of you.